Okay, so this is an example of using the manual control applications to check the calibration of this pressure transmitter. We have a 10 bar pressure transmitter fixed into the 4-port manifold, and that's connected from the output of the 8030 automatic pressure calibrator. So on the pressure transmitter that we're going to calibrate, I'm going to connect the 4 to 20 milliamp loop signal to the 8060 measure terminals, and now I'm going to start the 8060 manual control application. And set it into DC current measurement function. And the 8060 can also power the loop current by turning on the 24-volt loop supply. And because we have zero pressure applied to the pressure transmitter, we have a reading of nearly 4 milliamps on our loop current. I can increase the applied pressure, and in this case I've got the 8030 set to have 2.5 bar steps, so I can use these step buttons to increase the pressure. I put it into control mode, so now the 8030 is applying 2.5 bar. We're reading nearly 8 milliamps. Because the pressure transmitter is 10 bar range, we expect 0 to 10 bar to be the output of 4 to 20 milliamps. So here at 5 bar at 50% of range, the output is 12, which would be normally 12 milliamps. So the next step up is 7.5 bar, which is normally 16 milliamps. And then at the full scale, 10 bar, which should be a nominal of 20 milliamps. So by using the manual control application and the pressure calibrator, we can check the calibration of this pressure transmitter by noting the applied pressure and the measured current from the two instruments. Automatic pressure calibrator. This gauge is a 40 bar gauge, and we've connected it to the outputs of the 8030. The first thing in EasyCal is to enter the instrument data, which I've already entered here, and it captures the information about the unit under test, such as the manufacturer, model and serial number. And we can also attach a procedure which describes how to test this pressure gauge. So we'll go and create that procedure by closing the instrument database, and we'll go to the procedure database. We'll create a new procedure, and I want to tell EasyCal we've got a pressure indicator analog. Okay, I'm going to call this pressure gauge 40 bar. Okay, so I'll edit the test, and because EasyCal knows that this is a pressure indicator analog, there's a wizard button which will bring up a wizard for creating tests for a pressure indicator analog. So I enter the pressure range of the indicator. In this case it's 0 to 40 bar. And I can also enter a tolerance for the test. So I'm going to test it to 0.5% of the range. And the method is going up in pressure and then down with 5 test points. Click on create, and it creates all the tests required for this procedure. So because I chose up and then down with 5 test points, it's 0, 10, 20, 30, 40 bar, and then falling again. So I can close this procedure, and here it is in the procedure list. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the instrument list, and here's the instrument that I created with the UUT information. I can now add the procedure that we've created, which is this pressure gauge, 40 bar, and it's assigned this procedure to this instrument. I can click on calibrate now. Before I start the calibration run, I have the opportunity to enter data about the calibration in particular, what's the operator performing the calibration, environment conditions, any comments I want to appear on the certificate before I do the calibration. But I'm just going to click on OK to start. So for these tests, we adjust the input pressure to the unit under test so that it reads an exact value. Press continue to go to the first test. And here we can see the input is, well, it's close to 0 bar. We can actually press 0 on the calibrator to ensure that our master instrument is reading 0 before we started, and the unit under test is reading 0. So I'm happy with that, and I can press enter. And it takes me on to the next test, which is the first step, which is 10 bar. And the pressure controller has increased the input pressure to the unit under test up to 10 bar. And if my unit under test is not showing exactly 10 bar, I can adjust the input pressure until it does. In this case, I can see that the needle is exactly over the 10 bar marker. So I'm quite happy with that. I can press enter to go to the next test. So the next test point is at 20 bar. Again, the needle is exactly over the 20 bar marker on the unit under test. So I can press enter to record that result and go on to the next test point. The needle on the gauge is exactly over the 30 marker, so I record that result and go on to the next test. Now on this test, the needle on the unit under test is actually reading slightly over the 40 bar marker. So I can actually reduce the input pressure until the unit under test reads exactly 40 bar. So I'll use the step buttons. Until the needle is over the 40 bar marker. And you can see on the EasyCal we have an input pressure from the calibrator which is 39.80 bar, and the unit under test reads 40. So when I press enter, it will capture this information. And we're going to go back down the pressure range. So the next point down is 30 bar. the needle is exactly over the 30 bar marker, so I'll go to the next test point. Again, the needle's over the 20 bar marker. Here's the next test point. Okay, there. I'll go to the final test point, which is back to 0. Because it's 0 pressure, the pressure calibrator, the 8030, has opened the vent valve to vent the system to atmosphere. And my unit under test should be reading 0, which it is. So I can push enter to record that final result. And at the end of the test run, EasyCal gives a summary of how many tests would pass. Press OK. And here's a summary of the results. So I click on Save Results. I can enter some more comments and confirm to save the results. EasyCal will say about the certificate number it's generated, and I can preview that. To have a look at the certificate. On the second page is the results. And you can see the input pressure and the unit under test reading that we've recorded going through the calibration run. And where I had to adjust the input pressure at the 40 bar test point, where the input pressure was 39.8. In particular, this result is shown here.
Quick video, we're just going to show a manual calibration of a temperature transmitter using the 8060 process calibrator. So here we've got the transmitter, just a small demo unit that we're using. We've already got it connected up to the 8060 measure and source panel, and we're going to launch the application on the control center and just run through a few of the tests to show you the setup. Okay. So here we have the main control screen, and we're just going to set it up for this particular transmitter. So manually entering the temperature and reading back using the control pad for data entry. So that's just a quick example running through the temperature range of this transmitter using the 8060.
Okay, so using the same setup when we checked the pressure transmitter manually, we've got the 10 bar pressure transmitter connected to the 8060 to measure the loop current, and we have pressure applied from the 8030 automatic pressure calibrator. For this unit under test, it's a new instrument in my lab, so I'm going to capture the instrument details. Going to add a new instrument to the database, and I can type in the description. A manufacturer and a model number. Serial number. And I can also record owner information, location of where this unit under test usually lives, some status information. But for now I'll leave those blank, and I would like to create a procedure to assign on how to test this instrument. So I'm going to close the instrument database and go to procedures and create a new instrument, new procedure. So I can tell EasyCal that this is a pressure transmitter, and I'll give it a name. And because we told EasyCal that it's a pressure transmitter, we can use the wizard to automatically create all the test points required for this procedure. So on the input of the pressure transmitter, we're using the 8030, and we want to control the pressure from 0 to 10 bar. And on the output of the pressure transmitter, we want to measure the output DC current from 4 to 20 milliamps using the 8060 measure mode. And in this case, we're going to use the 8060 internal 24 volt loop supply. I'll put in a tolerance for my test, and here the pressure transmitter, I'm going to check it to 0.5% of span. I'm going to do a test that goes up in pressure and then down with 5 test points. And it's created the test points required, and 5 test points from 0 to 10 bar is 0, 2.5, 5, 7.5 and a 10 bar with corresponding current output. So I'll close my procedure in the procedure list, and on my newly created instrument details, I'll assign the procedure. And I can click Calibrate now to start the calibration run. Again, I can record some information prior to the calibration run that I want to appear on the certificate, but in this case I'm just going to start the calibration run. EasyCal is automatically controlling the input pressure using the 8030, and at the same time recording the current output of the UUT, the pressure transmitter under test. Because EasyCal can control the pressure calibrator and measure the current completely automatically, it advances through all the tests without user intervention. And now we've finished all of the test points. So here's a summary that we've passed all of our tests. And I can save the results. Again, I can put in some comments to appear on the certificate. But in this case, I'll just confirm to save the results. And EasyCal has created the certificate number. I'm able to preview the certificate to check any of the details on it, and then subsequently print it off for PDF. So here's a covering page of some of the information. Again, we can enter laboratory details of our test laboratory, and this is my instrument details on the certificate. And on the traceability information, there's the instruments used to perform the calibration is automatically listed on the certificate. On the second page of the certificate is the results of our tests. And we can see our 9 test points, 0 to 100% and then back to 0, which corresponds with 0 to 10 bar and then back to 0. And for these input pressures from the 8030, EasyCal's calculated what the nominal output should be from the unit under test, and has also recorded what the actual output was. From these two columns, a result is calculated in terms of error as a percentage of span. And finally shows whether this is within the tolerance that I specified.
Again, we're just going to do an automated procedure on the same temperature transmitter that we just showed you manually, using EasyCal. Now, first things first, we're just going to have a look at the procedure. So we've already got the procedure set up in EasyCal, so it's a pretty basic procedure that would have been set up using a wizard. As you can see, we've got 4 to 20 milliamps and the read back, and EasyCal's going to generate and read back and then automatically proceed through the test. So that's the pre-configured procedure. So we're going to close that out. We're going to come out of procedures and we're going to go into CalRun. Now CalRun, we find the instrument that we want to calibrate, which is here. As you can see, there's an image prompt, and then we can proceed because we know the procedure that we're using, and this will activate the calibration run. So on this type of procedure, it's got an auto proceed feature. And there you have a quick example. If we just pull up the print summary, it's a preview, and it shows our test points. And from that, you can also obviously create reports and graphs and so on from that for the process devices. But that's just a simple example for you.
Following on from a video of calibrating a pressure transmitter automatically using EasyCal, we created these, we saved these results as a certificate. Quite happy with them. I can exit from the test run, and I can actually look at the results using the print cert utility of EasyCal. And print cert is a part of the application that deals with the certificate storage and whether you want to reprint certificates or turn them into PDFs and to manage electronic signatures. So our latest certificate is at the top of the list here, and we saw that we had a 2-page certificate type, we had a covering page, and then a second page of results. But we could actually change this certificate template by clicking the edit button. And we can use a device certificate. And a device certificate is a single page template which has calibration information as well as the results, and it also includes a graph that gives you a summary of the performance of the unit under test.
Hi, we're just going to run a quick example showing the 8030B pressure controller module set up with the liquid trap 7115 manifold and a gauge UUT. So the unit is currently set up. Got my set pressure set to 1 bar, which I can select here, 1. Okay, my steps are set to 5, but I'm going to change that to 1. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit control. See the pressure rising on the UUT to the 40 bar unit, and wait for the 8030B to stabilize. So it's about 1 bar. Just going to run through a few steps just to show you some of the behavior of the controller. So let's go up to 2 bar. Change my steps to 3, and now this is a 3 sensor unit which has got 40 bar, 20 bar and -1 to 2 bar, so this will take me up to 5 bar on the mid-range sensor, so we get a drop in resolution. That dials up to 5 bar. UUT showing 5 bar. So this is just the manual operation. I'm going to put the steps up to 5, nice and easy. So this will take us up to 10 bar. See on a unit like this, it's reading about 10 bar, and the output 9.999. Again, rises up gradually to 15 bar, and then wait for the 8030B to stabilize. There you have it.